Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and I'm with my brother and my co-host. Kind of botched the intro there. I'm with my brother and my co-host. This is the end of the year podcast where we take your questions, your queries, your wonderments, and totally dive deep into whatever you guys had. It was a no bars, no all questions asked type of a Q&A. And Bashar, you were the one who was leading from the front. How do you feel about these questions that we have organized here?
We have an incredibly smart fan base. The community we've built, they have some intriguing questions. Some questions that made me rethink about cricket, Pakistan domestic cricket. So yeah, lovely to have received so many questions from all over the place. And we've sort of batched them as priority. So Patreon questions, we have our Discord community questions, and then we have Instagram questions. If you want to join any of those communities to be part of future Q&A episodes, make sure to sign up on Patreon. That will make sure your question is guaranteed to be answered. Or you can join our Discord community to stay up to date with any of Backward Point updates. And Instagram, just give us a follow. It's for free.
We don't want to be one of those parents that have favorites, but we have favorites, and those are the Patreon fam. I think that would. And then second favorite is a Discord fam. Like the Patreon fam, I would pay to go pay for their university. Discord fam will have to take loans out, and I think the Instagram fam is just high school dropouts at this point. Nobody else is getting past that barrier. So I feel like all of these are our kids, but a little bit of a favoritism going on as it happens in Desi families. So, anyways, I think we should get started. These are loaded questions, man. Like you said, we're lucky to have a very loyal and a very smart fan base. They really know their cricket, and they really went deep into this. Let's start with the Patreon questions. The first one, starting from the bat, is Mohsin Ahmed. Mohsin Ahmed asks, how many pieces are they away from having a top-notch test team? If you're willing to do the exercise, which players would you say are keepers for the next 4 years in the test squad? I'm assuming this is about the Pakistan test team.
Of course.
And he's asking, how many pieces are we away from having a top-notch test team?
Too many.
Short answer, if there's 11 playing, we're at least 7?
Well, the first thing is you need a captain who has his place in the team cemented. And currently, Shan Masood does not have that. I mean, it's very sad, but 28 average, I think 150 in the last 2 years. So his own place in the team is a bit at risk, and we've sort of made him the captain of the Pakistan team. So that just puts added pressure on top of him. More than batting and fielding, captaincy is going to be additional pressure. Also, I think where we're actually struggling the most is as our bowling. It seems like because of all the injuries and the fitness issues, we don't have a consistent fast bowling attack, even spin. So we need to handpick players who we can think serve Pakistan test cricket for the next 5 to 10 years. All the other teams in the world, they have stable, consistent test sides. Their openers are consistent. Their bowling attacks are consistent. Their captains are tactically great, and they're also great players. So if you compare Pakistan to all of those teams, we're way too far behind.
Watch Shan Masood just hit like a double century at the MCG just to prove you wrong for that.
I would love to hear the post-match conference on that.
I think from the 11 that we have, I say 4 are stable. I want to say you can't remove Abdullah Shafiq, can you, from the opening? It's a good opener.
Promising
solid
talent.
opener. Abdullah Shafiq, Babar, Saud Shakil, and Rizwan. That's probably the 4 that I would say they stay. Everybody else is in a constant rotation, and it's mostly the bowling attack, unfortunately. Like I don't even know if Shaheen has a permanent place in this 11 that I would sort of forge to make sure this Pakistan team is good enough. But unfortunately, it's gonna take some time. The next question is from Shazzy. Shazzy's always on the move, as we know from our many Zoom calls from our Patreon subscribers. We do once a month Patreon subscriber Zoom calls, and Shazzy's one that always joins, but he's always on the move. Shout out to Shazzy. He asks, when Pakistan lose, I sometimes go back over previous victories that restore my faith in the team. The ones I go back to are Afridi versus Ashwin in the Asia Cup, Junaid Khan versus India in India, Pakistan versus New Zealand T20, Saeed Ajmal versus England Test in the UAE, and the Champions Trophy final versus India. Do you guys ever do this? And if yes, what highlights do you go to to feel better.
I think for me, it has to be the 1-day game against South Africa where Abdul Razak hit that century. This was back in 2010. I remember watching that match and just it was an impossible situation. And for Abdul Razak to play that kind of a knock on the last wicket, just single-handedly winning the match, you don't often get to see that from a Pakistani player. So when I'm feeling down, depressed, I love to see those kind of innings. And outside of Pakistan cricket, I love to watch the Ben Stokes innings at the Headingley Test in 2019. That just gives me goosebumps every time I watch it.
And it was really well shot too. Like the highlights reel for that Ben Stokes innings is just insane. Like
the
it's
commentary
like a movie.
plus the crowd adds a different flavor to it.
Genuinely. And the stakes, the context of that game is so huge. For me, it's a lot of Shahid Afridi content. And for unsurprisingly, I would say, not unfortunately. I just love the guy. He's my favorite cricketer of all time. The swag, in Urdu we have this word called bharam, which I guess is another word for swag. But just like that aura that he had on his presence on the field, the aura that he had, the fear that he would put in the bowler's hearts was just amazing. But more often, I'm finding myself now, as I'm getting older, watching his bowling highlights. His 7-for against West Indies is one of my favorite things I've ever seen. He particularly really bowls well against Sri Lanka as well. And some of his, I think it's the one in the 2011 World Cup where he gets Jayawardene bowled. Is that him? Or am I misremembering?
No,
there's one where he gets
got him bowled.
There's one where Jayawardene doesn't pick his. I think it's the final then, or it's in the T20 World Cup. He doesn't pick his. I don't know. He doesn't pick his googly. It goes straight crashing in the stumps. It's one of my favorite things ever.
You might be recalling the 09 T20 World Cup final.
I think so. I think that's what I'm recalling.
He bowled a couple of good googlies there.
Yeah, I mean he was a man of the match of that one as well. And Shazzy also has that in his most rewatchables. I would say the Ashwin sixes as well. And more often than not, I'm actually going back in time. So I'm watching a lot of early 90s, late 80s clips, especially the ones that Fox Cricket releases for Cricket Australia. The late 80s, that blue-green Pakistan jersey with the Pakistan written like in a slant with Imran Khan captaining and Wasim and Waqar bowling. And I like watching that stuff. I think that's a good era from Pakistan cricket. It's I'm a kind of a history buff as well, a historian of cricket, and I just love going through that stuff. So good question, Shazzy.
Next question from Yusuf. Yusuf asks that Pakistan barely play any ODIs or test matches. Is it right to accept they won't ever be a good team because of this?
No, I don't think so. I think you can be a good team without the odds. Pakistan was sort of banned internationally for about 10, 12 years from international cricket in their home soil. And I think at that time they won a Champions Trophy, and they also got the Test Mace for Test matches, the number one side, even though it was short-lived, but it was there. And I think they were the number one T20 team as well at that time. So it's not impossible for that. I just think that as long as the big three exist and their monopoly continues, which involves them playing majority of the games, them playing all of the test matches like amongst themselves, 5-match series. When was the last time Pakistan played a 5-match test match series, bro?
I can't remember.
It's been a very long time. Let me just tell you that. And until that happens, the quality of cricket in Pakistan will still remain the same until things within Pakistan change. But the opportunities will definitely be different from the big three.
Yeah, well said. I think Pakistan, I think it is a disadvantage because if you compare the amount of tests at least that Pakistan plays compared to in India, in England, and Australia, it's the difference is staggering. And obviously because of that, the stats of those players are also quite skewed. Like the amount of test matches that Joe Root has played or Jimmy Anderson has played or Alistair Cook has played, it's not even comparable. If you maybe want to compare Azhar Ali's test career versus Joe Root's, they sort of start at the same point. Azhar already retired just a few months ago, and he only played 97 test matches, and he was a consistent part of the Pakistan team. So despite playing for about 12 years for Azhar Ali, he couldn't play 100 test matches. So that means he's averaging less than 10 tests per every year he's playing.
This last year that just went by, the 2023, Pakistan played 4 test matches.
And I think this year they're playing about 5. So that just goes to show where the priority of
and compare that to like what India, Australia, and England are playing.
There's no comparison.
Exactly. The fact that the stat that I just read today, as we're shooting this, the Australia versus Pakistan second test match is going on. It's just lunch break, so we thought we'd come and shoot this. There was a stat going on where Usman Khwaja has played more deliveries in a cricket match. Well, not this year in Test cricket than all of South Africa's batting combined.
So either the batting is crap or Khwaja is really good, or he's just playing a lot more matches.
Exactly. And even the top 5 run getters were
all English or Aussie players.
Yep,
because of the Ashes, they played 5 tests.
Exactly. So, then this comes back to like the cricket's biggest rivalry has not played a test match in about 15 years, almost coming up to 20 years. Something to be said about that. Something to be said about that. So, yeah, it's just it's a sad time. It's just a monopoly. I hope it breaks. I don't know who's going to break it. Saudis are going to break it. I don't know. They're going to buy the ICC out. I don't know what's going to happen, but the quality of boxing cricket should not go down. If anything, this should go up to prevent this stuff. If you're good, people will want to play you. That's it.
Al Nasser CC coming up soon.
Yes, definitely. And Kavish says, when are videos coming testing the Afridi bats? Well, I think he's referring to the UZ podcast, and the UZ podcast should be out probably before this is out. So that answers your question, Kavish. And secondly, we didn't really test the bats. I mean, in our garage, we have a ball hanging from the ceiling that we sort of play knocking with our bats. We did that a little bit, but we didn't shoot any footage for it. So maybe that could be like an addendum for Patreon subscribers where we just ask UZ if you can borrow his bats, go to the nets and see what they're all about.
Yeah, but when he tested the bats in the net in my garage with the hanging ball, I promise you the ping of those bats were next level. I've never seen thicker bats. I've never seen bats ping as loudly and such a smooth rebound. The pickup, the balance of the bats, just the way they were flowing. It was hard for me to go back to my own bats after, and I am talking about bats here.
Here's a bonus question. Between Shaheen Afridi's bat and Shahid Afridi's bat, which one would you fancy?
Oh, Shahid Afridi's one.
Right? I think the ping on that, I think what Uzair was trying to, I keep calling him Uzair. But Uzair was trying to tell us that Shaheen, because he's a lower order batsman, start at the tail sometimes. I know he's trying to be an all-rounder, but it's a few more years before he actually adopts that role. His bat has a lower middle. So the chunky, meaty part of the bat is sort of the lower end of that bat. And because Shahid Afridi was a middle order batsman, 5, 6, 7, Shahid Afridi's middle was in the middle of the bat. So his meaty part was in the right where it should be. And I think that was the difference that we were seeing. Because even if Shaheen goes into bat and mistime something, it can still go for 6 because it's the middle is different.
Or if he's digging out Yorkers, he can still middle them.
Yes. And Shahid Afridi, because he was a natural hitter of the ball, he knows that he'll time one better than most and it'll fly for 6. So that was the difference that I saw.
And also, because Shahid Afridi's bat's middle was towards the middle of the bat, it had a better pickup, better balance, I personally felt. So definitely, yeah, Shahid Afridi over Shaheen Afridi.
For sure.
In terms of cricket bats.
Shahid Afridi over everybody for me. Just massive Afridi fan here. We're moving towards our Discord questions. Thank you for the Patreon subscribers once again. You guys really support the podcast, and it's because of you guys that we're able to keep experimenting and growing. So shout out to you guys. Discord server, one of my favorite places. Like I was on the Discord server right now for 3 hours, just shitting on the Pakistan team because there's this channel that we've created called Live Commentary, and whenever there's a live match going on, people just come and just share their views, talk about it, live stream it basically. So Discord questions, I'm expecting really good ones from here because I know there's a lot of witty and funny people in there. So Bashar, why don't you take it away?
The funniest thing about the Discord questions is the Discord usernames. Obviously, people are like quite anonymous sometimes. This is their burner accounts. So as I'm gonna read through the questions, you guys will understand what I mean by the funny usernames. And the first question is from Mustard. And the question is the rapid growth of PSL affecting Pakistan team in the longer formats? We have seen players like Haris Rauf break into the ODI and Test scene through T20s and PSL, and their performances haven't been up to the mark in domestic, and domestic performers have been ignored. So I guess to summarize, is the PSL affecting Pakistan team in longer formats such as ODIs and Tests?
I don't think so.
I think it is because we're basically picking players from the PSL off of 1, 2, 3 good matches. And we're not just putting them in Pakistan's T20 squad, we're putting them in Pakistan's ODI squad, Test squad. A good example would be Mohammad Haris. Mohammad Haris was a terrific find in the PSL. We take him to the T20 World Cup. We play him a few matches. He does brilliantly well. And then we transition him towards Pakistan's ODI squad ahead of Sarfaraz Ahmed. He hasn't played many List A matches. And his performances in the longer format, they reflect the fact that he's a bit undercooked in the longer formats.
So you think Mohammad Haris would have done better if he were just playing more domestic games? He would have been more cooked.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but you can't also undermine the fact that PSL is the biggest franchise that is in Pakistan right now. A lot of eyeballs are on that. A lot of people watch it. Even casual fans are watching that game, watching that league to see what's going on. It's the talk of the town when it's on. That February month is just all over Twitter, all over DSC Twitter, Pakistani Twitter. It's just like that's what anybody can talk about. So when someone is a standout performer there, then their chances of playing in the national squad increase. Now, is that affecting Pakistan in the longer formats? I don't know if that's the case because this current test team that went to Australia has the domestic fines, right? And they still are struggling. So is that a reflection of the PSL? Is that a reflection of just the standard of cricket that we're playing in the domestic? I think that's where the question should be. The PSL is, I just feel like the PSL is this really shiny object that everybody likes poking a stick at. I don't think it's much more than what it is on the surface. It'll give you a lot of exposure. It might break you into the team, but if you're not good enough, you will not sustain. Heather Ali is a brilliant example.
I think the PSL is a great platform to identify talent, but not to fast track it to the Pakistan team, right? So I would say use the PSL to highlight the top performers and then monitor them over Pakistan's domestic season.
I agree. I think that's a good concise way to say that. Second question is from Captain OCT and Khabar. They asked similar questions. We'll just bunch them together. Will there be a change with the Rizbar opening partnership with Shaheen being captain now in T20s? Do you think that we should experiment with such tongue twister. Do you think that we should experiment with such exceedingly good T20 opening pair? Man, I struggled through that one. That was tough.
So I think me and you, we differ opinions when it comes to Pakistan's T20 opening partnership. So for the record, I'll just say that, I accept and I understand that Babar and Rizwan have been the top opening pair in T20s the past couple of years for the Pakistan team and just in general in T20s. But however, I believe that Rizwan and Babar are both anchors. Their strike rates are around about 125, just under 130. And I feel like we should divide the T20 game into 3 parts. The first one being the power play, overs 1 to 6. The second one being the middle overs, between 7 to 15. And the last part being the death overs, 16 to 20. And I believe we should have specialist players for each and every single phase of the game. Starting off with the power play, I think Babar and Rizwan, they're both anchors, and we need a more attacking approach in the power play. I feel like Pakistan team 15 years ago was ahead of its time with players like Shahid Afridi opening, with Imran Nazir opening, with Kamar Akmal playing as openers. We sort of fallen back behind with Babar and Rizwan opening. It's more of a safer option. It gives us more stability. But I believe we need players like Saim Ayub, Fakhr Zaman, Mohammad Haris opening the batting to just exploit the power play and make the most of the fact that only 2 players can be outside a circle.
So where do you put Babar and Rizwan?
So the first thing I would do is bring Babar Azam 1 down, right? And then I would maybe have Rizwan there opening with Mohammad Haris, Fakhr Zaman, or Saim Ayub. Ideally, I would even remove Rizwan from opening, and maybe like fit him somewhere at number 4, or maybe just rest him for a while and have Azam Khan wicket keep, and just probably open with Fakhr Zaman and Mohammad Haris, or Mohammad Haris and Saim Ayub.
I think the start of next year will be really fun and really tricky for us to like form our 11 for the T20 World Cup. With Azam Khan now in the squad, with Saim Ayub trying to make his debut back into the Pakistan team, I think it'll be tough for us to do that. And I agree with you. I think it's time for the Rizbar opening pair to retire. With as much pain as I have in my heart to say that, I think that's the call. I think Shaheen will make that call for sure. Question number 3 in the Discord server chat is from casual.x420. Wow, that's a tough one again. Considering you guys started roughly a year ago and that you guys have already made such a huge progress with your podcast, what is the next step? Also, what is something that you guys have done to overcome some struggles that come with a podcast? Firstly, I don't think we started over a year ago. We've been at it for almost 4 years and nearly 5, I would say. 4 for sure, nearly easing into 5. We started from our library media room in Pickering, in the Pickering Library, shout outs. And from there, we got we invested on mics and cameras, and we to shoot on iPhones. And then this is the first time we're actually shooting on, mirrorless cameras. And it's great. I mean, it feels like we're professionals almost. And this is just the first step. A lot of things that we did was basically the thing that I'm proud of is that we were consistent throughout. Like we pushed through the tough times where like we had 20 views and 15 followers and subscribers. And we persevered and we kept at it because we knew that nobody was doing what we were doing in this space. Mainly because, at least for me, I was tired of listening to the same old Dr. Numan Niaz, Rashid Latif, the quote unquote Budde Babe, the old timers, the boomers talking about cricket. When cricket has evolved so much, like it's a completely different game. And I wanted this podcast to be something that I would hear. And I catch myself doing that in the car sometimes. So I'm really proud of it. And the toughest thing to overcome was just those early years, man. And there were a lot of them.
But we sort of overcame that because our goal was always long term. We had sort of set a goal that the first year of this podcast branching out, we wanted to do 50 episodes. And I think this one might be episode number 64. So that means we've averaged about 1 episode a week this year. And I think that's something that I'm most proud of. I think starting a podcast is very easy, but staying consistent and pushing through while you have 100 views, 50 views, 1 comment, 2 comment, that's the hardest. But I feel like now we have a good core audience that want to listen to us, that tune in. And it's all you guys. So thank you for listening in and thank you for validating our opinion on cricket.
Yeah, 100%. This pod would have been nothing. I mean, it would have still been what it was before 4 years ago if it weren't for the huge influx of people that want to listen to us and want to hear what we have to say. So, kudos to you guys and thanks for keeping it alive, man. And one day I will quit my job completely and do this full time. That's my goal.
The next question is from Prince Singh Gill, a legend of the Discord platform.
Legend of the Discord, yes.
His question is, do you guys try to limit how much you discuss cricket with each other outside of the podcast? How often do you have let's save it for the podcast moment?
All the time. All the time. We try our best to not, apart from actually watching cricket together, where we're just shooting stuff at each other, oh my God, what the hell is this, blah, blah, blah. When there's something that happens, we there's a moment where we start talking about it, and then I don't know about you, I see you see me, okay, save it for the pod, and we'll dissect it on the table there. There's a lot. I would say about once a day we have a moment like that where we're all right, put it in the notes, we'll discuss it on the pod. So it's tough, but it's actually fun because then we get to do it in front of thousands of people.
Yeah. Also, I think that the cool part is that me and you don't necessarily agree on every single thing. So it's good to have fun banter with you. And I think it's the best if we can just save that banter for the podcast rather than just in our private lives chatting about it.
I think so. I mean, that's why we started the podcast, because we used to have these conversations in person and just go off. And now we can just do it in front of people and they can enjoy it too. So it helps.
Yeah. The next question is from the BK and also Hafsa wanted to know this. It's a bit of a loaded question, and it's a multi-part question. And the question is, who is your favorite current Pakistan player, all-time Pakistan player, upcoming Pakistan player, current overseas player, all-time overseas player, and just overall favorite player out of the above? So let's start off with who is our current Pakistan player.
Babar Azam. Babar Azam for me. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Same. I would say Babar Azam for me as well. Who is your all-time Pakistan player?
Shahid Afridi.
Yeah, mine's got to be right here. Shoaib Akhtar.
Yeah, I think we gave that away. You with the book and behind you and me just giggling about Afridi all the time.
And with you, we would think that Goo Goo Dolls is a good player as
well. Goo Goo Dolls is one of my favorite bands of all time. And I have the Hufflepuff thing here. I have the John Mayer thing here. My friend made me that. poster above my head, and then the Goo Goo Dolls banner that I got.
This is a cricket podcast.
So what? It's my side of the camera. We have fights about this all the time. Bashar is like, my side looks like it's a cricket podcast. Your side looks like it's a shrine for pop culture. And you know what? So be it. It's my side.
And who is your upcoming favorite Pakistan player?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Upcoming.
Mine's got to be Saim Ayub.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. You know what? I'll do the other Karachi guy, So Shakil. I really like him. I think he showed a lot of promise at the World Cup. I think his test form is immaculate. I think he's just a solid. He reminds me of Fawad Alam, just a solid middle order batsman. I'd love to see more of him in the ODIs and the Test. Did he get picked with the PSL?
Yep, he's in Quetta. Yeah, he might actually be captaining it because they're trying to remove Sarfaraz as the captain for Quetta.
There we go, Karachi agenda. My dad's gonna be really happy because he's in the South Shakil agenda, and we didn't even know that.
And who's your current overseas player favorite?
Virat Kohli.
Virat Kohli, yeah, same. I would say Virat Kohli. Yeah, Virat Kohli would probably be my favorite as well.
The current, right? I'm trying to think who else I really like.
Someone you would want to tune in to actually watch bat.
I like Mitchell Stark a lot.
I
love his bowl. I remember, I think it was a 2021 or 2020 Ashes where he bowled Rory Burns for the first bowl.
Watch that live.
I mean, that's just primetime TV.
Iconic.
Love that. So yeah, I like Stark as well. And the way he carries himself is it's fun to see. He's a professional.
And who's your all-time favorite overseas player?
Has to be Kohli still, no?
So your current and your all-time is the same?
Yeah, it has to be. Kohli has a great impact on the game and just a great impact on me as well. I love his mindset of him wanting to be the best, that Kobe mentality, that Jordan mentality. I rarely see that from cricketers, and he's changing the game the most, like without a doubt. So yeah, he's the most important player in cricket right now, and one of my favorites of all time.
Mine's got to be Jimmy Anderson. I've loved watching him bowl in the UK. Those conditions, give him a Duke's ball, and he is Thanos. Just watching the players square up to him, not knowing which one's going to go away, which one's going to move back in. Just seeing long spells by him, ball with pace, accuracy, and just unbelievable seam and swing movement. Some of my favorite spells to watch on YouTube is Jimmy Anderson versus Virat Kohli. And that is just a battle of two greats. That's cinema for me.
Oh, this just reminded me of Shazzy's question. The innings where India got all out for 36 is also something I love watching, just for bants and giggles.
What about the comeback?
The comeback it's solid as well. But that 36 all out I love that sometimes. Would you say that Jimmy Anderson is your dream guest on this podcast?
One day.
Yep.
One day.
Who else would you like to see on this podcast?
Dream guest. Shoaib Akhtar, Wasim Akram,
Shahid Afridi,
Imran Khan, but just for a cricket podcast with him.
Oh, insane. That would be really good. I don't think anyone's done that.
Zainab Abbas did a show with him.
But was it was deep? Do you know what I mean?
It was nice.
It was
good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shout outs. Yeah, for me, it's like Shahid Afridi, Virat Kohli,
Brian Lara.
Brian Lara would he be a good guest?
I mean, we would be good hosts. So
we interviewed Muhammad Haris, but we didn't think he'd be a good guest until he sat on the chair and started talking to us. And we were like, oh, he's a great guest. And then sometimes you interview people when you think they'd be a great guest and they're just okay. So yeah, it also depends on who the person is. Moving on, question 6 is from Arij. Arij asks, Pakistan cricket team's best and worst moments of this year. It's a good question to round up the year.
It's a good question. I think the worst moment has to be
that entire patch from the Asia Cup to the World Cup.
Absolutely. I would say the game against India at the Asia Cup, because that just ignited Pakistan's downfall, right? When did Naseem Shah get injured?
He got injured during
the
Asia
Cup.
Match? No. It was, I think, the game against Nepal, I believe. It was in Lahore.
He got injured diving against Bangladesh, right? But then he played the next match, and then his injury got worse.
Aggravated, yeah.
Right? So I think it was that India match. That's got to be the worst moment for me. Like that's just one of our most horrific losses. And Pakistan cricket's best moment
of this year.
I was thinking about this and I said, our win against Sri Lanka, the highest chase in Cricket World Cup history, centuries by an emerging player like Abdullah Shafiq trying to mark his statement at a World Cup on the big stage. And then also Mohammad Rizwan played an amazing knock as well. So I thought that was probably peak Pakistan cricket moment.
I was going to say something really lame, like the 4-1 against New Zealand, the ODI series earlier this year. But
what about the PSL final? Lahore winning back to back.
That was pretty good too. Actually, that's out of the
One
box.
of the best PSL finals.
Yeah, I think we should go for that. That was like a genuine Pakistan win.
Last ball 4 to win, and then they run 2 or 3.
Yeah, love that. I think that's a good one. Let's stick with that one. And from Make, a baseball and cricket wizards, again, Discord server, whatever. What changes and improvements would you make to the Pakistan's domestic/grassroots cricket? Ooh, this is loaded. Loaded question. You want to take this?
I would start off with probably preparing better pitches, having the whole domestic seasons spaced out a bit, decreasing the number of teams so we can ensure that there's still quality instead of volume and quantity.
No more Karachi whites, blues, greens, and purples?
Karachi whites playing in the blues. Doesn't get better than that.
All right, sad boy hours are back. And then, yeah, pitches, infrastructure, maybe paying the players more, and just making it more competitive.
Better broadcasting. I want a speed gun on every single match. I want stats. I want every game televised on PTV or Geo Super, whatever. I want the highest production quality for games so we can know how the players are playing, what stats we have, what data we can gather. How many runs did which player score against which bowling attack? What was their average speed? How was the pitch like? How much was the ball turning? I think having all those data points will help us pick better players, which will help us groom better players and have better conditions for local pitches.
And also, obviously, more Swiss Southern North gas company matches. That's we need that. We need more of that. No, I'm being very coy, but I need that whole President Cup thing gone. That's the most outdated, prehistoric thing that I've ever seen in my life. I think that it's reminiscent of a very weird and disjointed time in Pakistan history, and all those people that started that are dead. So why are we continuing on with something that's just so just not even of this time? So I would like that out. I think that's just a waste of time, waste of space, and you can better enforce those resources onto something else. More cricket academies would be nice, and just start from the ground up.
I would also want a way for the players to continue getting their education. I think a lot of the problems in Pakistan cricket stem from these players coming from humble backgrounds. They're not very well educated, so they lack vision. A lot of the players don't even know anything about nutrition or fitness until they get to a PSL or the Pakistan team, right? So the expectation should be that when you get to the team, you're already fit. You're already, well groomed. So I would have some sort of system where you play cricket and get your education at the same time. So that would be something I would look to invest in.
Yeah, totally. And just again, I was sorry. I had Cricket Info open. Second wicket down for Australia. That's nice. I mean, good for Hassan Ali taking that wicket. I think that also rounds up our Discord server questions. Very well done, guys. You guys did not disappoint. And then we'll be moving over to the Instagram questions. The third favorite child, like I said. We've got a few of those. Starting off from Zan Shamim. He asks, thoughts on Shaheen playing all 3 formats without taking a break? And then from Double Trey Shea, how does Shaheen get his rhythm back? Those are a twofold question. You as a fast bowler, you should take this one.
The first thing should be that, so thoughts on Shaheen playing all 3 formats without a break, plus playing the leagues. Like I mentioned, he signed up for the T20I for the next 3 years. And then he has the PSL, he has the Vitality Blast, he has the 100, and then again, all 3 formats for Pakistan, every single game, whether it be Netherlands, Nepal, Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, he's playing
Zambia, whatever.
So my thoughts on that is that either the PCB need to manage his workload better, so rest him for some of the weaker teams, or secondly, Shaheen needs to be like, hold on, I'm Pakistan's premier bowler. I need a break. I need to work on my action, my fitness, my rhythm. And if I need to take 2 months off, and if I need to take a month off and not play the Blast, not play the ILT20, let me do that, because my vision should not be the next 6 months. It should be the next 10 years. And that just stems back to what I was saying earlier about how players lack a vision. They don't understand the opportunity they have at hand. Like Shaheen Afridi, if he continues to be fit and back into rhythm, like the old Shaheen was, he could be on track to being competitive to Wasim and Waqar in terms of wickets and hostility. But again, if he realizes that, then only he can achieve those things.
Yeah, like this test match that's ongoing right now, the second test match of the Australia series, averaging 132 in the first innings. So it's shocking and it's sad, and he needs to take the onus and step back a little bit. Mitchell Starc, like you said, is a great example. He really wants the goldenware and the silverware in his cabinet, and he will put off a $3 million a year IPL contract.
Not even a year, for 6 months. For six weeks.
Exactly. And he will put that off to make sure that Australia are champions of whatever format he's playing. So he's set a great example, and I hope and wish that Shaheen will follow that through. That's the only way he can get his rhythm back. Take a break and focus. That's it.
This next question was a question that was repeatedly coming. I think I only mentioned a few guys who mentioned this question specifically, but this was a reoccurring question. And again, because this episode is chaptered, I'm sure many of you will click right here. The question is from its_Wase, Abdullah.J, Muhtashim Ashraf, Harun Butt 11. And the question is, why is Babar struggling, and will he able to make a comeback?
Why is Babar struggling? That's a really good question.
Well, the question is Babar struggling? And I was looking at Babar's, year-over-year stats.
Definitely struggling. We talked about this in the start of this series, the preview that we did. I gave you the numbers for his test this year, and it's abysmal. His 161 was the last good score that he did, and then it was just 20s, 30s, and the highest score was 39, I believe. So yes, he's struggling, and even though he has 115 ODIs this year against Nepal, which actually is kind of like at his detriment because people are making more fun of him, the whole Zimbabwe thing. He doesn't have a quality knock all year, and it's tough.
I think the reason why we think Babar is really struggling is because last year he had a stellar year. He won the ICC Cricketer of the Year award, and it's because he scored about 2,500 runs at an average of 54 with 8 centuries. And this year, he's only able to score nearly half those runs. He scored 1,357 runs. His average has dropped from 54 to 41. And he's only scored 300s compared to the 8 he scored last year. So it looks comparatively that, yes, Babar is out of form. He's struggling. Maybe he is, but to look at his stats, someone who's averaging 40 plus, 300s, a strike rate of 83, 1050s, in 35 innings, it's not too bad.
Not too bad, but where he had to show up during the Asia Cup and the World Cup, he didn't. And I think that's what's glaring, and that's what's standing out the most. If he wants to be an impact player, if he wants to be a player like Virat Kohli, like Ben Stokes, he has to get silverware under his belt. That's just the way it's going to be. Otherwise, he's going to be a really great talent like Yunus Khan, Mohammad Yusuf, Inzamam ul Haq. I mean, Inzamam has a World Cup, to be honest, but that was really early in his career. But like one of those great players that really don't have much to show for except for runs and centuries and all that. And that's tough. That's a tough reality to exist in. And I feel like that's what the fans and that's what the critics are talking about is, where is that killer instinct, sir? Where are your 2,500 runs now?
Where is the fire in the eyes?
Where, man, I'm gonna follow that reel is gonna follow me for a very long time. Yeah, where is the fire in the eyes? The fans expect it. I projected it. Where is it? And until fans get that, until silverware is under his belt and around his neck, I think that will be a common concern, including his centuries. In test matches, it seems like it's dried up. And not a good knock has come out in a very long time. The 150 against Nepal was fantastic, but against Nepal. And there is I mean, all centuries are equal, but some centuries are better than other centuries. Right? It's that kind of mindset. And you have to put an asterisk when that happens. And I think the only thing that will make Babar come back to his true form is just another century. It's the same Kohli thing. Kohli had a 4-year drought where there was no centuries, but he was still averaging over 50. And it's one of those things here. I know he's not averaging over 50 and his runs are definitely dried up. But the only thing that can bring his aura back, his command back, is big runs against big teams.
So there's about 3.5 more years to go till Babar scores 100.
No. 100 is coming soon. 100 is coming soon. I don't think we have to wait that long, but it's just a matter of time of when and where. I think he really needs a century in Australia against Australia during this series, and I think that would bring out the confidence and the competition back.
I think the issue is that with Babar's past performance, he made us believe that he is in the same bracket as Joe Root, Steve Smith, Williamson, Virat Kohli, but his recent performances, and also it's important to highlight that his performances in multi-nation tournaments of recent past, Asia Cups, World Cups, he's been, a quote-unquote no-show, right? His performances have not been up to the mark of any of the Fab Five. So it's just making a few people doubt, second guess, question Babar's abilities, and if he's in fact part of that Fab Five that we keep mentioning.
Yeah, definitely. And the only way he can prove it is, again,
one good knock.
And against a good solid team. Monim, Hassan 2, and Hiba Rahil asks goals with this podcast in the future. And I think it's a simple answer. Actually, for this year, we've exceeded all our goals. Near the end of this year, I think you're going to have a talk about what we expect for next year, what we want to do. The thing that we want to definitely do is be bigger and better. Bigger in numbers and followers and subscribers and Patreon subscribers and all that. And then better in just quality of podcast. We listen to a lot of podcasts. We know what's good. We know what's bad. We know how to take what we like and sort of change the narrative around cricket broadcasting. And that's what we really want to do. We want a new voice, a fresh voice, and a voice for people all around the world. Like, I know we strictly talk about Pakistan cricket just by the nature of things, who we are as people. And I think the other thing that we want to do is broaden that up. We want to talk about other cricket as well. We watch a lot of it, but we end up sort of only digesting and distilling it down to Pakistan cricket. And just be better podcasters. I think that's the goal. And then the last question of the day, of the year, to round out, is again a contentious one. Everybody wants to talk about this. I think we kind of touched upon it briefly before. Who are your T20 openers? Because next year 2024 is a T20 year, T20 World Cup year. Pakistan are favorites. We talked about Rizbar earlier in this podcast. Who are your T20 openers, Bashar?
It's a tough question because we have a problem of plenty in Pakistan's T20 opening bracket there. The first thing is that I want to break that Rizwan partnership. I want to have Babar come in one down. So maybe Rizwan opens with Fakhr. Maybe Rizwan can open with Mohammad Haris or Saim Ayub, or because the problem is Rizwan has performed so much that you can't really remove him as an opener or from the T20 side. So Rizwan has to open because he also can't play anywhere else. He can't play number 4, 5, 6. He doesn't have that same power hitting ability. So I would perhaps keep Rizwan there and then experiment with either Fakhr, Saim Ayub, or Mohammad Haris.
I think I'm with you there. I would, but I don't know. Even Rizwan wouldn't be bad at 4, would he? If you have Saim and let's say Saim and Fakhr are opening, one down is Babar, second down is Rizwan. What's wrong with that?
Then the problem is that if the Kharjaju keeps going at number 5, Azam, if he's playing, goes at number 6, and then you can have Shalab and Shaheen next.
It's not bad.
It's not too bad, but I think having Iftikhar at number 4, it just because he takes some time to get in before he can go crazy. I would like to keep Iftikhar at 4 because we keep Iftikhar seems like that kid where you can just keep pushing around, and he keeps suffering ultimately. He's a player of number 4 in ODIs and T20s, and we keep pushing him at number 5, number 6, number 7, even sometimes. And we try to utilize him as that pinch hitter where he's actually a proper player. So again, I want to see if the heart for probably Azam at number 5 and T20s.
Then where is Rizwan going?
Home. We're gonna rest Rizwan.
I think this is a good place to end this podcast because this is turning into a different podcast. The openers are locked down. I think I think it'll be next year is going to be a tough one just because we have so much cricket to discuss. The T20 World Cup is coming, the PSL is coming, and so many games in between. The IPL is also coming. We should talk about that as well. It's going to be a great year. Thank you guys for following us through our journey through this year. This is the first year of Backward Point. I know we've been potting for a long time, but I think you're going to see bigger and better things from us in the future. Stick around, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're on Spotify, leave a review. It's for free, but it helps the podcast a lot. People get to see it, people get to review it, and people get to check it out. And we keep growing as a community. And if you, again, want to be in touch with us, if you want to be in touch with our community, the Discord servers are down below. If you guys want to help support the podcast, you can sign up for memberships at YouTube. You can sign up for memberships at Spotify. Best way is to sign up for our Patreon. We give you specific perks, question and answers, live Zoom calls, future merch. That's on the cards as well. We already started work on that. And I think I'm just grateful, bro. This has been a great year. I didn't think this is where we would end up, but I'm glad that we did. And I hope next year is going to be bigger and better, and more fans, more fun, and just taking it all in.
More love, more blessings. DJ Khaled.
There we go. Take care to all our cricket lovers, and enjoy a happy new year with your family, with your loved ones. If you're listening to this on a drive safe, and we will see you guys on the next episode of Backward Point.
See ya.